The jungle was thick with mist, and the sound of distant water echoed between the high stone walls. Sergeant Daniel Ward moved carefully, scanning the shadows while his German shepherd, Rex, padded beside him. The air smelled of damp earth and something faintly metallic, as if the forest itself was bleeding. Daniel's mission had been simple: explore the canyon and report back. But Rex's sudden growl told him that something was wrong. They followed the sound deeper into the green maze, the soldier's boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered ground. Rex stopped near a cluster of rocks, ears perked and tail stiff. That was when Daniel saw her slumped against the stone. Her skin an otherworldly shade of violet, her long black hair tangled with leaves. Her armor was torn, scorched in several places, and a faint blue glow leaked from a wound just below. Her ribs, she wasn't human. She was something far rarer. She was barely breathing. Daniel knelt beside her, keeping one hand on his rifle. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak, but no sound came out. He noticed a small crest-shaped pendant on her neck, an insignia he recognized from intelligence briefings. This was no ordinary alien. This was a royal emblem. She was a princess. From the Aelorian Empire, a species known for their isolation and fierce pride. If she was here, wounded and alone, something catastrophic must have happened. Rex moved closer, sniffing her cautiously, then gave a soft whine as if urging Daniel to help her. Training told him to secure the area first, but instinct told him time was running out. He pulled a small medkit from his pack, quickly scanning the wound. Her blood shimmered like liquid light, flowing slowly. Human bandages might not work, but leaving her here meant certain death. Daniel made a decision that would change everything. He would save her. As he worked, she flinched at his touch but didn't resist. Her strange, bright eyes locked on his face, searching for something. He tried speaking in the universal trade language, but her voice was too weak to answer. She was shivering, and the warmth was draining from her body fast. Daniel wrapped her in his field cloak, feeling her faint heartbeat against his chest. Rex stayed close, scanning the jungle as if guarding her from unseen threats. Minutes passed, but Daniel knew they couldn't stay here. Whoever had hurt her might still be nearby, and the canyon's narrow paths offered little cover. He hoisted her gently into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, as if her bones were made of glass. Her hand brushed his neck, and for a moment, her lips formed a single word in her own language, a word Daniel didn't understand, but felt deep in his chest. It sounded like trust. Daniel moved quickly through the narrow canyon paths, his boots splashing through shallow streams. The alien princess was still in his arms, her breathing shallow but steady. Rex trotted ahead, ears twitching at every sound. The jungle seemed alive with whispers, rustling leaves, distant calls, and the faint hum of unseen machines. Daniel could feel eyes watching them from somewhere in the mist. The princess stirred weakly, her hand gripping his vest as if afraid he would let go. Daniel spoke softly to calm her, even though she likely didn't understand his words. Her violet skin felt cool against his arm, and the faint glow from her wound pulsed like a heartbeat. He knew he had to find shelter soon, or she wouldn't survive the night. Rex suddenly stopped, growling low, and Daniel raised his weapon, scanning. The dense green around them, shapes moved between the trees tall, armored figures with insect-like helmets and glowing weapons. Daniel recognized them instantly from old combat briefings. They were Korrak hunters, ruthless mercenaries who specialized in tracking and capturing high-value targets. If they were here, they were hunting the princess. And now, by helping her, Daniel had become their target too. He ducked behind a moss-covered boulder as a beam of red energy scorched the air above his head. Rex barked fiercely, drawing the hunter's attention for a split second. Daniel took the chance to fire back, hitting one of them in the chest and sending the figure crashing into the undergrowth. The others scattered, but he knew they would regroup. They always did. He had to move, and fast. Daniel followed Rex down a side path barely wide enough for a man to pass through. Vines brushed against his face, and roots threatened to trip him. But he didn't slow down. Behind them, the sound of metallic feet grew fainter, replaced by the steady rhythm of the princess's breathing. She was drifting in and out of consciousness, whispering in her own language. One word kept repeating, soft and trembling, his name. Somehow she knew his name. The narrow path opened into a hidden clearing where a small waterfall trickled into. A clear pool. The air here was cooler, and thick moss covered the rocks like a soft carpet. Daniel set her down gently near the water's edge and began working, quickly to clean and close her wound using what little medical supplies he had left. Rex sat close, keeping watch, his gaze fixed on the dark path they had come from. They were safe for now, but Daniel knew the hunters would not stop until they found her again. The princess opened her eyes slowly, the strange silver light in them reflecting the waterfall's glow. Her breathing was stronger now, though pain still tightened her expression. Daniel offered her a canteen, and she drank cautiously, her gaze never leaving his face. Rex lay a few feet away, ears twitching at every sound, ready to defend them at a moment's notice. Daniel spoke slowly, using words from the universal trade language. Who hurt you? Why are they after you? At first, she didn't respond, only staring as if weighing whether she could trust him. Then, with effort, she touched the pendant at her neck and whispered something. Daniel recognized two words, Aelorian crown. His mind clicked. She wasn't just royalty. She was the heir to the Aelorian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in this sector. Her voice trembled as she tried to explain. The Korrak hunters had been sent by traitors within her own court. They wanted her dead before she could reach the safety of her fleet. The ambush had destroyed her escort ship, and she had crashed here alone. Daniel understood now saving her wasn't just an act of kindness. It meant stepping into the center of a political war that could span entire star systems. Rex suddenly lifted his head, growling deep in his throat. Daniel froze, listening. In the distance, faint but distinct, came the clicking sound of Korrak tracking devices. They were getting closer. The princess's eyes widened in fear, and her hand gripped his arm. If they catch me, my people will fall, she said in halting trade speech. Help me reach the signal point. And I swear my life to you. Daniel hesitated. Every instinct told him to avoid alien politics, but there was something in her voice, a mix of desperation and unshakable resolve, that struck him. He looked at Rex, who gave a short bark, as if agreeing. All right, Daniel said, loading his rifle. We move now. The princess nodded, her pain hidden behind a determined expression. Whatever came next, they would face it together. They left the clearing, following a narrow game trail that twisted through dense ferns and towering stone pillars. The air grew thicker with mist, and the light dimmed under the canopy. Every step brought them closer to the signal point, but also deeper into enemy territory. The princess stayed close to Daniel's side, her eyes scanning the shadows. For the first time, she didn't look like a helpless victim. She looked like someone ready to fight for her life. The jungle path narrowed until Daniel had to push through thick walls of vines. The princess kept close behind him, her breathing steady but quiet. Rex moved ahead, his ears flicking at every sound. The air was heavy with the scent of wet leaves, and somewhere in the distance came the deep hum of Korrak drones sweeping the area. Daniel knew they were closing in fast. They reached a fallen tree blocking the path, its roots tangled like claws reaching into the sky. Daniel motioned for the princess to stay low as he climbed over, scanning both sides with his rifle. Rex froze suddenly, his body tense, staring into the shadows. That was when Daniel saw the glint-reflected light off a Korrak helmet. Without warning, 3 hunters emerged from the undergrowth, their weapons raised. Daniel fired first, forcing them to scatter. A red beam scorched the bark beside his head as he pulled the princess down behind the fallen tree. "Stay here," he barked, vaulting over the log and returning fire. Rex lunged at the nearest hunter, teeth clamping onto its armored arm, dragging it down. The fight was loud and violent, the air thick with smoke and the smell of burned vegetation. One hunter tried to flank them, moving toward the princess. Daniel saw the motion and felt a cold rush of adrenaline. He fired a burst, dropping the attacker before it could reach her. The remaining Korrak backed into the shadows, retreating but not gone. They were testing him, probing for weaknesses. He knew this wasn't over. They would come again, and in greater numbers. The princess crawled to his side, her violet skin marked with dirt, but her eyes burning with determination. "Signal point is close," she said in a strained voice. "Half a mile east." Daniel nodded, reloading quickly. "Then we keep moving." He helped her to her feet, and together they pushed deeper into the jungle, following Rex's lead as he guided them toward safety. The terrain became steeper, the ground slick with moss and rainwater. Massive tree roots twisted across the trail, and strange glowing insects flickered between the leaves. Above them, the sound of drone engines grew louder. Daniel realized they had to reach the signal point before the Korrak could block their path completely. His grip tightened on his rifle as he prepared for the next attack, knowing it was only a matter of time. The signal point was a narrow ridge, its top covered in broken stones and a single rusted relay tower leaning against the sky. From here, Daniel could see the jungle stretching far in every direction, mist curling between the trees like silver. Smoke. Rex reached the ridge first, sniffing the ground, then barking sharply. They weren't alone. Figures emerged from the tree-lined Korrak hunters in full armor, their weapons glowing red in the dim light. They fanned out in a half-circle, cutting off the path back down. The princess's breath caught, and she stepped closer to Daniel. "We have to activate the beacon," she whispered. Daniel nodded, keeping his eyes on the enemy. "I'll hold them. You make the call." She hesitated, but his tone left no room for argument. Daniel took cover behind a jagged stone and opened fire, each shot forcing the Korrak to duck or scatter. Rex charged into the fray, darting between enemies, snapping at exposed joints. The hunters responded with blasts that scorched the ground inches from him. Daniel's rifle grew hot in his hands, and his ammunition was running low. Still, he kept shooting, buying her every second he could. The princess reached the relay tower and pulled a small device from her armor. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, her voice chanting in Aelorian as she bypassed the broken systems. Sparks flew, and the tower's old lights flickered weakly. Daniel risked a glance only to see two Korrak rushing her position. He sprinted across the ridge, tackling one to the ground and firing point blank into its chest. The second hunter swung its weapon toward the princess, but Rex leapt onto its back, teeth sinking into the thick armor plates. The alien stumbled, giving Daniel time to finish it with a well-placed shot. The princess kept working, her voice steady despite the chaos. Then, with a sudden hum, the relay lit up fully, sending a beam of blue light shooting into the clouds. The beacon was active. The Korrak hunters froze for a moment, realizing what had happened. Reinforcements were coming, and not for them. They fired one last volley before retreating into the jungle, vanishing into the mist. Daniel stood breathing hard, his rifle low, scanning for any stragglers. The princess stepped toward him, eyes bright with relief. "They will come for us now," she said softly. "You have saved not just me, but my people." The beam from the relay tower cut through the clouds, its blue light visible for miles. The jungle fell silent except for the soft patter of rain dripping from the canopy. Daniel stood at the ridge's edge, rifle in hand, Rex at his side, scanning the mist for any sign of the Korrak returning. The princess stood near him, her posture straight despite the wounds, her eyes fixed on the sky. Minutes felt like hours. Then the air above them shimmered, and a massive silver ship broke through the cloud layer. It moved with the grace of a predator, silent and powerful, until it hovered above the ridge. A bright column of light descended, bathing them in a warm glow. Daniel felt the hair on his arms rise as the hum of the ship vibrated through the ground. The princess turned to him and smiled for the first time since he'd found her. Figures emerged from the beam, Aelorian royal guards in shining armor, their crests glinting in the light. They moved quickly to the princess's side, speaking in their language, their voices urgent. But she raised a hand, silencing them. She stepped toward Daniel, her gaze unwavering. "This man and his companion saved me," she told them in the trade tongue. "By my word as heir to the crown, he's under my protection forever." The guards looked startled. A human under Aelorian royal protection was unheard of. One of them began to protest, but the princess's tone turned sharp, and he lowered his head in respect. She then knelt before Rex, placing a hand gently on his head. "And the loyal one," she said softly, "is a friend to my people for all time." Rex wagged his tail, tilting his head as if understanding the honor being given. Daniel felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. He had expected to save her life and disappear back into the jungle, but now he was being bound to an empire. The princess reached into her armor and removed the crest-shaped pendant from her neck. She placed it in his hand, its weight surprisingly heavy for its size. "Wherever you carry this, you will be known as one who saved the crown," she said. "And I will always come when you call." The beam of light began to rise, pulling the princess and her guards toward the waiting ship. She looked down at him one last time, her eyes locking with his. There was no fear in them, now only trust. Then she was gone, vanishing into the silver vessel as it disappeared into the clouds. The ridge was quiet again, the jungle already reclaiming the space. Daniel looked at the pendant in his hand, Rex sitting beside him. Whatever came next, he knew one thing: the galaxy had just changed, and so had his life forever.